Hi team, Snowflake Dan here with you. Today we're going to be covering over how to connect Google Cloud's SSO or Authenticator to Snowflake so that we can log in with our Gmail accounts. So let's get straight to it. So here on the page, you'll notice there's a tutorial. This tutorial we're going to use throughout the process for some code and also to follow along with the images. So let's go through it. So the first thing we'll want to do is actually make sure that our username is the actual email that we're going to use to log in. So in this case, I've got one. I'm going to head down to admin, users and roles, and I don't have one because I'm using a traditional username here. So to add a new one, I'm simply going to go here. I'm going to want to add my username in double quotes because it's an email and there's a special character in there. And so, connectapps.com, you'll notice now that I've put it in double quotes, it'll allow it. So I'll just copy that and put it into my email. And then I could either choose to add a password or not. In this case, I will, just in case. But because we'll be using SSO, the password is actually not necessary. And you could also edit it or delete it later from the user. So we'll go down to advanced options, and I want to make sure this account has a role when it starts. So I'll give it account admin and I'll create the user. Perfect. Let's keep going. So the next thing we'll want to do is actually copy our account URL because we're going to use this later when we add in our information into Google's SSO. So let's do that. Let's head down here. I'm going to move myself up a little bit and we'll click on our user. Then we'll go to account. I have multiple accounts, but you'll probably have one. And I'll simply want to copy the account URL. And then I'll start up a worksheet so that I could paste that somewhere while we're working with it. So I'll simply add a comment here and I'll paste in my URL. Perfect. The next thing we'll want to do is actually head to our Google Administrator account. So let's do that. We'll want to head to apps, then web and mobile apps, then add app and add SAML app. Let's do that. So here, I'll go to apps. We'll go to web and mobile apps. Then we can see I already have one here, but we're going to start a new one. So I'll go to add app, add custom SAML app. And then we'll want to give it a name. So in this case, I'm simply going to call it Snowflake Demo. You can choose to add an image or not. I'll simply click continue. And then we're brought to a page where we're going to get a few things. We're going to get an SSO URL, an entity ID, and a certificate. So these will be the three things we want. And if we go back to the tutorial, again, we put our name in, and then we'll want to grab those three. So let's do that, and let's add them to our worksheet. So first, I'll add the SSO URL. So here, SSO URL. I'll do a space and paste it in there. I'll do the same for my entity ID. And then finally, I want to grab the certificate. This one is a little bigger, so I'll want to do a block comment instead. Perfect. Then if we head back to the tutorial, we'll notice that now we want to add some code to Snowflake to integrate this with Google. But in the warning block, it will notice here that it says to remove the begin certificate and end certificate first. So let's do that. Let's remove this. And then let's remove the end of it as well. Perfect. Now what we'll want to do is actually copy this SQL code and paste it into our worksheet, and then we'll paste all of those in there. And if we want to see an example of that, we can see here, here's an example of me running it before. So let's copy that. Let's head back to the worksheet and let's paste it in. Great. So the first thing we'll need is that entity ID and SSO URL. So I'll copy that. So the SSO URL first here. Then we'll copy the entity ID. We'll paste that in there. And then here we'll notice that the next things we want to add is the account URL twice. So we'll copy our account URL. And here we'll notice that we don't want to delete the fed/login. We just want to replace where it says account URL here. So we'll do that one more time. And then finally, the last one will be the certificate. So I'll copy my certificate over and I'll paste it in here. From a security standpoint, please don't worry. I'm going to delete this as soon as this video goes live, so please don't worry about it. Then we'll select all of it and hit run. And we'll notice now we get two different URLs. So if we head back to the tutorial, we could see that if we go to the next page on our Google SSO, we'll want to add the ACS URL from Snowflake as the ACS URL, pretty straightforward, and then the issuer URL as the entity ID. Perfect. So what we'll do is we'll copy the first one, go to our console, we'll click continue, and we'll add our ACS URL. And then we'll go back to Snowflake and we'll copy our second URL and we'll add that as our entity ID. Perfect. We can keep everything the same. We'll click continue, we'll click finish, and then Google will finish the process. And from here, if we keep following the tutorial, we'll want to click the box to allow our users to actually be able to use it or to enable it for everyone. So we'll head back to Google, we'll click on that box, and we'll enable it for everyone. And then we'll click save. Perfect. So now it's enabled for everyone. Our final step is to do what we want to do, is actually test it and log in with that Google SSO. So I'll simply head back to Snowflake. I'll actually log out because I'm logged in as the normal user. And so now, once we've logged out, we can select our account. Now, one thing to keep in mind here, if this is the first time you're logging in and you're given a URL that looks kind of like this, you'll actually want to delete everything after your account URL to make sure that Google can log in, because if that is still added there, you'll get a Google error. But if you simply remove it or you just log in with your normal URL that you might have bookmarked, that's perfectly fine. We could then click sign in using Google SSO, select our user, and then Google will log us in to our user in Snowflake. So this has been Google SSO with Snowflake. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.